Hi everyone, welcome to the Healing Dogs and Cats chat. Today I thought that we could chat about something that probably a lot of people are having this time of the year if you're in the Northern Hemisphere, and that is fleas. It's the end of summer, and right now in East Texas, the fleas are out of control. So, one of the things I get frequent questions about is obviously, we don't want to be using the traditional flea treatments since they cause seizures and can cause cancer and just make our dogs very sick and our cats very sick. And we don't want to be spraying a whole bunch of poisons around our house because that's going to make our animals sick and also us sick. So, what are our options? What is the safest way to take care of fleas? What is, maybe like there's a progression of if you have a very minor flea issue, what do you do versus if you have a full-blown infestation? When is it okay to use certain products? What kind of cautions should we use when using certain products and stuff like that? So let's jump right into that today. So being in East Texas, fleas are a huge problem. I lived in Las Vegas for a long time, and fleas are not an issue there because it's in the desert, but fleas love the humid air. And so as soon as we came here to Texas, we started the battle against the fleas. And obviously I don't use any chemicals in my house. I don't use any chemicals on any of my animals. So we have to figure out ways to deal with these naturally. And a big part of that is correcting the diet is going to go a long way to avoiding the infestation of fleas and infestation of any sort of parasites. And dogs that are eating the kibble or commercial foods, their skin is putting out a lot of cellular waste, and that makes them much more attractive to fleas. But just because we're feeding the perfect diet when we're feeding our dogs correctly does not mean that they're not ever going to get fleas. Like every animal out in the wild gets fleas. So it's something that is just a natural part of nature, unfortunately. And they, I'm sure, play some sort of beneficial role, but I don't know what it is. But they do like to bite the heck out of our puppies and unfortunately also us. So as much as it hurts me to hurt any animal, especially, bugs and, fleas, I feel like they have a right to life just as much as we do, but, when it's making your animal absolutely miserable because they're just scratching like crazy, we unfortunately have to step in and do something. So, the first thing that we can do is super simple, super cheap, absolutely zero harm. Flea combs. So you just comb your dog or cat, and then what you should do is have a dish of soapy water right next to you. So you run the comb through, and then you dip it into the soapy water, and that'll knock the fleas off into the soapy water, and they'll drown. And then that will kill them. So if you only have a few fleas, you're just catching it early. You can usually just get it with the flea comb and just stay on top of it for a week or so. And as long as you just stay on top of it, you'll get all the fleas before they can start laying eggs. And you should be able to just knock it out really quickly. However, most of the time, we don't find the fleas right away. We usually find them once our dog has an infestation of them or just has more than a dozen of them, and they're starting to itch and scratch, and then we're like, oh, why are you itching? And then we go and look and we find either the flea dirt or see an actual flea, or a flea jumps off onto us and bites us. So that's usually the more frequent issue. So once it gets to that point, it does get more difficult to just handle the situation with the flea combs. So then we're going to start instituting a bath. So I try to use very low toxicity products when bathing my dogs. So my general go-to is just a basic coconut soap with no added ingredients. If you can't get that, a Castile soap like Dr. Bronner's or just any regular Castile soap is good. We want to avoid a lot of the essential oils or any additives, fragrances. Definitely want to avoid the lauryl sulfates that they put in the shampoos. So just, read the ingredients list, go for whatever's available that has the least number of ingredients, that's the most simple ingredients that you can pretty much figure out what those ingredients actually are. When you do the bath, you're going to go really thick lather, really thick. Like you want to have white foam everywhere on your dog, head to toe, especially focusing on like in the armpits, around their head and face. The fleas really like to live there, at the back, around the hips, and then just give like the whole body a once over, really thorough, get all the way down to the paws. And then you want to leave that foam on there for several minutes. I usually do about 5 minutes. And then you're going to rinse them off, and then you're going to repeat the process. Because believe me, it is so much better to just do it thoroughly the first time than to have to keep doing baths over and over again. Because our dog's skin is not really meant to be bathed, and so the shampoos especially, they strip all the natural oils from their skin, and this dries out their skin. It can make their skin itchy, it can create irritation, it can get them to start scratching and being, you know, really miserable. And if they've already been scratching from the flea bites and then they have to scratch from the dry skin, you could really make them quite uncomfortable. So we want to avoid that. So we want to do as few baths as possible, but while being as effective as possible in getting rid of the fleas. So take your time, do a really thick lather, leave it on there for 5 minutes, rinse it off, repeat, another really thick lather, leave it on for 5 minutes, rinse it off and repeat. And then follow that with at least a week of combing every single day. Usually try to do it a couple times a day if you can. Doesn't take long, you know, it's just a couple swipes, you know, when you're normally petting your dog, just, you know, grab the comb and swipe with the comb, especially checking their face and the, you know, along the ridge of the back, at the tailbone, and if you can get into the armpits with the comb. And so those are our two first lines of defense. If your infestation is really bad, or if you have multiple animals in your home and you're trying to avoid the infestation moving from one animal to the other, we can use essential oil based flea collars. They make plastic flea collars that are impregnated with the essential oils. Now, normally we don't want to use essential oils anywhere around our pets because essential oils are a toxin. They are a concentrated plant toxin. And so we want to avoid putting toxins in or around our animals. We never want to use an essential oil diffuser around our pets because it can make them very sick. It can even cause seizures and like nasal bleeding and all sorts of, you know, especially cats in particular are very susceptible to poisoning from essential oils. So definitely want to be very careful with any essential oils you use. But the essential oils in the collars, it's mostly within the collar itself, so they're not getting a heavy exposure. But that being said, we don't want to just keep a flea collar on them year round, right? We want to use it for that specific period when they're, you know, just to address the current problem. And then as soon as the problem clears up, then take the collar off. So if you're seeing that the bath is not doing it, then throw the collar on, do the other two steps still, like keep doing the baths until as needed, still do the combing as needed. Now, getting rid of fleas in your home is arguably the even more important part, because the thing with fleas is they will lay tons of teeny tiny little eggs, and there's very little that actually kills those eggs. And so what often happens is you'll get the actual live flea population completely eliminated, and then you'll be fine for a week or two, and then all of a sudden you'll have an explosion of fleas again. And you're like, where are these coming from? And it's because when your dog was walking around with all the fleas, they were shaking off all the flea eggs all around your house. So when those flea eggs hatch a few weeks later, you now have round 2 of your infestation. So what I have found to be by far most effective, even though it's a more expensive option, a carpet steamer or a clothing steamer, either one, or one of the little cleaning steamers. Steam will kill flea eggs. And so you can steam like all of your dog beds, your couch, any carpets that you have, and that's going to be the most effective tool to get rid of the flea and break the flea cycle. If you just do the combing and the bathing, you're not doing anything to get rid of the fleas in your furniture. Now you can vacuum thoroughly. A lot of people recommend vacuuming daily, but what I found was even though I was vacuuming my house 3 times a day, we couldn't get ahead of it. We could not stop them from reproducing because the vacuum just wasn't picking up all the flea eggs, so they just kept reproducing. So now, as soon as we see fleas, we're going to steam the whole house, all of the rugs. Even if you have tile floors, go along all your baseboards with the steamer, your curtains, dog beds, blankets, towels, anything fabric. They like to hide in the fabrics, like any little rugs that you have around like your dog dishes or just front door rugs, things like that. Make sure you're hitting all those spaces. And there are like essential oil sprays that you can use around your house. I generally don't recommend those. And if you are going to use them, try to keep the animal out of the room while you're spraying. Give it like 20-30 minutes to settle before you let them into the room. This way they're not inhaling it. That's okay, but again, if your dog is sensitive, if your dog has chronic disease or is like in a weakened state, then I would definitely just stay away from the essential oils altogether. But if your dog is relatively healthy, then if you need to use something like that, just make sure the air the room out. Don't have them in there when you're spraying, and just try to let it settle and soak in before they come into the room, because you don't want them licking it, you don't want them inhaling it. A lot of people use diatomaceous earth. I really don't recommend diatomaceous earth because it's very harmful if inhaled. So not only if you're inhaling it while you're applying it, but also your pets as they're walking around. Like if you put it in your carpet and then the dog's running around through your house or your cat's running around, starts scratching the carpet, they're going to kick that dust up and then inhale it, and then that can cause irritation to the lungs and to the throat, lots of mucus and coughing and all sorts of stuff. So I just think that DE is just not a good choice. I haven't found it to be very effective either, so I would just say no to that one entirely. But yeah, our kind of process is flea combs, baths, including the cats, which is not fun. So yeah, flea combs, baths, and then the carpet steamer. And if it's really bad, I'll throw the essential oil flea collars on them for the shortest time possible. So, if I'm just trying to keep everybody else from getting infested, we'll get the one animal that's currently infested taken care of, throw the collars on everybody else just to keep it from jumping ship to the other dogs or cats. But yeah, so that's, honestly, the steamer though is going to be your secret weapon if you're dealing with a problem. I will leave some links down below with the products that I use currently. So the collars, the steamer, and yeah, I think that's about it. So if you guys have any questions, please leave them down in the comments. And if you're new here, you can get a free feeding guide and support in our Facebook group and at my website, therawkey.com. So I'll make sure to link all that down below. If you want to learn more about how we heal our dogs and cats, hit subscribe now. And, thanks for hanging out till the end of the video. And I hope you guys find this helpful. Have a good night.